빵!
So I finally saw the Chainsaw Man movie, the Reze arc, which is interesting because a long time ago, back in my day, whenever an anime movie would come out, it would normally be non-canon. It would be something that was created just to give us an extra story with the characters, but wouldn't really fit in or connect with the main storyline. And if you tried to make it fit, it was filled with contradictions and just overall not canon to the original series. Also, when I was younger, anime movies never played in theaters. I mean, we had like the Pokemon movie, but like a movie like this, like Chainsaw Man, would have been unheard of, 15, 20 years ago. And so now I think we are living in a very interesting time where an anime film gets a wide major release over here in the US in both sub and dub, whichever way you prefer to watch it, and can be found at even my nearby theater, which is crazy to me. I'm a big fan of the Chainsaw Man manga, but my original point was that this movie is actually canon. It is adapting the next part of the story. So if you saw season 1 of Chainsaw Man, which I was a little bit bummed out at how short that season was. I think it was only like 12 or 13 episodes. And so I was, eagerly waiting a season 2, but instead of getting a season 2 right off the bat, instead they went with the route of continuing the story in the form of a movie. So yes, I would say that you have to see season 1 of Chainsaw Man before going into this, or you're probably going to be lost on a bunch of the things happening here. But also interesting for me is that when I read the Chainsaw Man manga for the first time, I've only read it through once, and I've been trying to keep up with the new chapters. I'm a bit behind, but it's been about 5.5 years since I've read the portion in the story that this movie is covering. So it was a little bit strange for me to kind of go back into my mind and remember where we're at in the story. I mean, yes, I watched season 1 when it came out, but since I actually read the arc where Reze shows up and all this shit goes down and all this stuff happens, and I remember loving this segment of the manga, it still took me a minute to think okay, we're here and Denji's at this place, okay, and then the movie starts off with the date between Denji and Makima when they go to the movies, which is one of my favorite parts of part 1 of Chainsaw Man. So it was great to be able to see that adapted into the movie as well. But with that, you get a higher budget, you get better quality animation, better quality, pretty much everything across the board. So it's a give and take. You either get a little bit less anime, but you get a really awesome movie, or you get more consistent anime, but not quite at the level that a movie can give you. And right now, the trend seems to be to give these anime series movies. And I was a little hesitant at first because personally, I'd rather watch it in an episodic format. But after watching the film, I can't help but be won over by it because it is great. It is great. It is, if you like Chainsaw Man, I can't see this movie not giving you pretty much everything that you want, at least if you are aware of the story and, what it's going to be tackling in the film. This is, I dare say, a perfect adaptation of this segment of the manga, and I can't hardly think of anything I didn't like about this movie, other than the sense of just because of where it is in the story. I would say my only negative in the film would just be that due to the nature of the portion of the story that it's covering, there are some characters I really like that we don't get to see a lot of. For instance, Power is only in the movie for 5 minutes, and it's disappointing because I love her character, and it's so great to see her again. And, Aki has some stuff to do. He has kind of his own arc in the movie, but again, you don't get as much of him as you get of Denji and Reze. So, that would be my only negative, really. It's just that there's more characters I wish I could see, but I understand that they're adapting a specific portion of the manga, so they're not going to be in there. And one thing that stood out to me is that there was a lot of creativity in the shots in this movie. For instance, there's one moment where after Denji's date, he's standing underneath a light pole with the city kind of moving really fast behind him and in front of him, but it's all kind of darkened out, and there's only this one spot of light where he's standing, where, obviously he wishes he wasn't standing there alone, and the world is kind of moving around him. I thought that was a really great shot. The music that they used over it, too, was fantastic. There's another moment that happens in the manga, but it's when all the fireworks start going off, and they show a shot of, the little girl dropping the candy that gets stepped on, cracked. just as Denji is getting his tongue bit off, and the way that they incorporate that and sort of like the images of both, as well with this kind of ongoing analogy of, would you rather be a rat in the countryside or would you rather be a rat in the city? Whereas in the countryside, they have a much easier, simpler life, but there's not as much excitement. There's not as much variety of types of food that you can have and that sort of thing. Whereas in the city, you have all of this food and all of these things that you can do, but you're under constant threat and constant danger. And, two different sets of characters bring up this question at the same time, both with different answers. And throughout the film, there's all of these images of rats, like rats in the city, and the ending scene with Reze as well, kind of like amplifying the fact of how dangerous it is to be in this world, and maybe they should have ran away and took it a little bit easier, So little things like that that I noticed I thought were really great and creative. And honestly, I really did love the first half of this movie a lot. So again, because of where it is in the manga, the structure of this movie pretty much is like the first half of the film is dealing with Denji's relationship with Reze, and the second half of the film is just like balls to the wall, just nonstop insanity, violence, chaos, battle, explosions, everything you can imagine under the sun. So you get a little bit of a good balance there with this sort of a moment in the middle, like with the fireworks that kind of blends the two together, kind of leading us to the inevitability of the heartbreak and chaos that Denji is going to experience, because he is this character that just is led around by everybody, hardly ever making these choices for himself. And every single time he believes that somebody actually cares about him and actually gives a shit about him, it's ripped apart. And, he even says in the movie, like, every time I find a girl that I think likes me, they're trying to kill me. And there's these moments that are funny, like, where he's facing off against Reze and she says something like, "Oh, my feelings were true for you." And he's like, "Wait, really?" And Aki has to be like, "No, you dumb shit." Like he takes so much at face value, and you feel so bad for him because it's like no one ever gives him this kind of kindness or affection. And that's why he thinks he has this good deal being in this devil hunter group too. It's like he talks about how awesome it is, and it's only because they give him food, and he has something consistent to do. It's like he doesn't really know any better. So when a girl is like throwing herself at him, he doesn't know any better to not go along with it. He doesn't question things. And really, I mean, I think it also comes down to like, that's what he hopes is true. And sometimes when something is too good to be true, instead of thinking that it's too good to be true, it's like you want to buy into the fantasy so deeply that you just go along with it. Even if there is something in the back of your head thinking that something's wrong. With Denji, I'm not sure that there is. But sometimes when something like that happens, you just go along with it no matter what, because you're just thinking that like, I just want this to be real. I want this to be true. I want to believe in this. I just hope that this is the right thing. Nobody was there to teach Denji. No one was there to guide him. And he doesn't have any positive view on relationships from even his own history, but even anybody that he ever witnessed in his life. You know what I mean? It's like he doesn't know. And that's the thing that makes you feel so bad, especially watching it now, after knowing that at some point Reze is going to try to kill him. I'm just thinking in all these moments when they're having their back and forth and their conversations and they're talking in the coffee shop and they're sneaking into the school, and it's just like, it's so nice. And it's so nice and it's so sweet and it's so romantic. And you're just thinking like, we'll just stop the movie here. We'll just pause the movie here. Everything's good. And he doesn't know what he should do. And he's led by impulses and emotions and doesn't know how to manage his own emotions. And so like, this girl is all over him. She's holding his hand. She's taking him to these locations and stuff. And he just goes along with it because it's like, he doesn't know any better. But of course, eventually there is the twist where Reze is revealed to be the bomb devil and is coming after Denji. The shark fiend that he has as his partner comes in a clutch so many times. I forgot how useful that guy was. It's been so long since I've read it, I didn't remember. But yeah, he gets him out of dodge so many times, coming in clutch. Like definitely somebody that you want to have watching your back, despite how annoying he may or may not be. And then once it goes goes into the second half, it really just becomes this all-out war against Reze. And again, with the animation, I really like how they portrayed her powers. You know, she does like the snap explosion thing, which always reminds me of Mustang from Full Metal Alchemist. But I also really like the animation that they did with her explosions, kind of using her explosions to propel herself forward and kind of almost fly because of that. So they do a lot of creative things with the way that she uses her explosions and creating bombs and the different types of bombs that she creates and all of that stuff. So I think they portrayed her powers really, really well. And when Denji goes full Chainsaw Man mode, you know, they have this giant epic fight that happens in the city, which is great to see. I love when big fights happen in a city in anime because you didn't get a lot of that when I was younger. Like watching Dragon Ball, you know, they always go to like a mountainous region where there's not going to be any casualties and stuff. So to actually see this big drawn out fight in the middle of a cityscape, that was a really cool aesthetic that I feel like we don't really get a lot of. And I will say this too, and it's going to sound like an insult, but I'm actually building up towards a compliment, so bear with me. I do read the Chainsaw Man manga, and there are some more modern manga that I like, but to be honest, I'm more of an old school guy. Like, especially when it comes to anime, I much more prefer anime from like the 80s, 90s, 2000s. That's kind of more my era and kind of more of like the type of anime that I'm drawn to and the type of anime that I like when it comes to anime movies, especially. So it has a particular style and a particular aesthetic that I feel like is missing from a lot of modern anime, and that I don't really get the kind of anime that I want to see anymore. I feel like most of the type of anime that I love no longer exists, right? And I feel like a lot of modern anime have a lot of flashiness to their animation where it's not necessarily the choreography of the animation that's great. Like, I'm not an animator, so I can't explain it, but like, instead of focusing on choreography, it's like a lot of like really close-ups with the cameras where like the limbs and arms get really noodly, and then there's like a lot of flashes on the screen, and there's like sparks and fire, and then like characters are far away, and then characters are close up. You know, it's just like there's just a lot of like movement and craziness with the camera to make the fight seem like huge, right? As opposed to like doing like the choreography to it like more old school anime would, like a fight scene in an anime that was made in like the 80s or 90s, right? So now, having said that, I want to say that when it comes to the fight scenes in the Chainsaw Man movie, I think, although it does lean towards the more modern aesthetic of how to do these wild fight scenes, I think that the fight scenes were actually done in a way that I really, really appreciated, that I'm not quite used to seeing in more modern anime, mostly to the point where I could follow it and understand what I was seeing, and it didn't feel like they were just flashing things at the camera at me. There's a few moments like that. It would have its moments of visual flair, but it would never go so far to where it just felt like I was watching like noise and noodles on the screen, if that makes any sense at all. Like, I could always follow where Denji was, what was happening, whether he was getting punched up through a building, whether he was like, you know, getting knocked all the way to the beach, whether he was using his chainsaw arms to like just throw out the chains and wrap Reze up. Like, every single thing that he did and like the choreography of the fights in this, I felt like I could follow, regardless of any kind of like extra visual flashiness and flair that they threw at the camera. So I think that this was a really good middle ground for action scenes for an old person like me, you know, that likes his more classic anime. This definitely does lean more towards the newer style. However, there was enough choreography and enough focus here where I could actually tell where all the characters were at every step of the way, and I had a good sense of scale, and I had a good sense of space, because like there's a giant like typhoon devil that Denji's fighting at the same time. So you have like a giant creature, you have Reze that's human size, Denji that's human size, but he's riding the shark that's bigger, and all of these like different moments of different characters of different scales, all, you know, connecting and fighting with one another. But I felt like I could follow everything perfectly, and it didn't bother me. So that's a huge compliment, at least from somebody like me that prefers more old school stuff and old school animation, that I actually like really, really dug how all the fight scenes were doing here. But yeah, like I said, I think that if you are a fan of Chainsaw Man and you know, either watched season 1 of the anime or you read the manga, I think that this gives you pretty much everything that you need, everything that you would want. I think it's a pretty much perfect adaptation of the Reze arc. And yeah, we'll see where this goes moving forward. I don't know. I haven't looked up any information, so I don't know if they're going to go back to the episodic format or if they're going to do another movie. I'm not sure. But after seeing this movie, hey, you know what? I'm all for another one because this was great. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the Chainsaw Man movie, the Reze arc. If you saw it, down below, did you love it? Did you not like it? I couldn't imagine anybody that's not a fan of Chainsaw Man liking it. Maybe they would, you know, like if you just walked into this blind, I don't know how you would feel about it, you know, without any kind of setup or explanation at all. But if that was you, let me know if you liked it. I'd be curious to know, somebody that walked into this blind, if they loved it or not. Anyways, yeah, let me know what you think down below, guys. Thanks for watching this video. As always, give it a thumbs up, comment, help it out in the algorithm. If you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have Patreon channel memberships, all the social media links where you can follow me down below. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.